Hey guys, what's up? So welcome back. So in this tutorial, we want to look at how we're actually going to create our first app. So Django projects consist of a bunch of different apps, and you can see here that I have tutorials, and a lot of this site is going to be based upon the YouTube videos that I'm putting together. So I'm trying to basically supplement the channel. So I need to have models, basically an app for my tutorials. So I'm going to create a tutorial app. And you would do that by going to your command prompt, making sure you're in your virtual environment. And just like we did before with the manage.py commands, we're going to say python manage.py. And then we'll say create app. And then we'll call it tutorial. Or maybe it's start app. Yeah, it's start app, I forgot. Alright, so now that we've done that, you can see down here at the bottom that we now have this project. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my server so I can add this to my project. Or I'm sorry, include in project. So in the tutorials, it's going to have its own admin.py. And then the apps, don't worry about that. But models is where we're actually going to focus right now because we need to create the model. So basically, alright, so a tutorial should really consist of multiple videos. And videos should be its own database table. So let me think here. So basically what we're going to do is we're actually going to create, we're going to keep everything in one model file. So we're going to create two classes in one models file here. So the first class will be called video, and then you're going to use models.model. And here we want to have a title be a character field, so we'll say models.character field. We should give it a max length. I'll just make it 200. I don't want titles to be longer than that. And then we want it to be unique. So unique. I was thinking that my IntelliSense was actually going to help me with this, but it's actually not. So basically unique equals true. Now one of the nice things is Django is going to create a primary key, which is going to be an integer. So every video that we add to our website or our database is going to have its own unique ID, which we don't have to actually set up for. Some other web frameworks make you do that, but Django does not. Alright, so a video should have a title. There should be a basically, we'll just call it a video ID. You know what? I don't like the name of that. So, you know what? I'll just call it YouTube ID. And I'm not really sure how long that should be, but we'll just make it a max length of 20. And then we want a description. And instead of a character field here, we're going to give it a much larger max length since we'll make it like 800. And I also want to say blank equals true and null and null equals true. And I want to do the same thing right here. But you definitely don't want, what blank equals true and null equals true allows both a blank and a null value to exist inside the database, so you don't have to fill this information in. The title has to be mandatory. You definitely want to have some sort of value there, and And in many cases, you don't want it to be duplicated, so the database is automatically going to check to make sure that this value isn't already entered, because I don't want duplicate videos inside of the database, so it doesn't make any sense to do that. So now let's go ahead and create another class just like we did here, except we're going to call this one tutorial. Alright, so the tutorial is also going to have its own title. It's going to have its own description, just like we did with videos, except this one is going to be a many-to-many relationship where we're going to actually say videos, and it's going to be models many-to-many. And then here what we need to do is we actually need to reference the video class that we just identified. Alright, now another thing that I actually want to do, because a tutorial is also going to have tutorials that are basically an association or similar to a tutorial that's being viewed. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a similar field down here. And I can do a models many-to-many field and reference itself by using a value here, just a regular string called self, and I can say null equals, I don't know why my editor wants to do that, null equals true and blank equals true, because what this is saying is I don't have to actually add many-to-many fields here, like if there's no similar tutorials to the one I'm working on. But this many-to-many field is actually a many-to-many of itself. This one is a many-to-many video. So basically a tutorial can have multiple videos. There can be multiple tutorials using the video. And then there can also be multiple tutorials that are referenced as similar tutorials, and all be stored under this joint. Alright, so one other thing we need to do is say, actually, you know what, we don't need to do that in Python 3 anymore. In Python 2, you used to have to define Unicode in order to get the name. I don't think you have to do that anymore, but we're going to find out. One thing, though, let's go ahead and let's deal with our date field, because we want to make sure that anytime a tutorial is added, or even a video is added, that there should be a date time, so that way we know, like, we can query like the newest tutorials or newest videos added. So let's go ahead and import the datetime object from our Python library, and that's part of the Python installation no matter which version of Python you're using. And then we'll just call this date equals models.date field, and there is a date time field, but I don't really care about that. And we'll say null equals true, blank equals true. You know what? Maybe I do want a date time field. I'm going to go with a date time field. This is going to be your own determination. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to default to the current time anytime a new object is being added. So that way I don't have to manually enter a date time, because that can get super annoying. But I want to have both of these values consist of or carry an actual date that they got uploaded. Now, in order for our actual new tutorial objects and video objects to show up in our admin, we need to actually edit the admin.py file, which is included with any sort of app that you create using the Django command line helper. So this part's a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, but the more times you do it, the more it'll make sense. But what we need to do is define an actual admin class, which we're going to call tutorial admin, and it's actually going to use the the admin object that was just added up there at the top for us automatically, and say model admin. So what we're doing is we're actually implementing, or we're subclassing essentially, and our parent class is admin.modeladmin. And what I want to do is I want to say list display, and I want to be able to display all tutorials by their title. Make sure you add that extra comma. That's weird, but it's a tuple that we're dealing with here, so that needs to be there. And we're going to give it the option to be able to search through itself for any value that matches the title. You can actually give other values too if you wanted, but we don't need to do that. And another thing I want to do to make it easier to deal with the many-to-many objects is I'm going to say filter horizontal, and then we're going to pass in a tuple for similar and also for videos. And we need the extra comma there. Now I need to say admin.site.register, and I need to say tutorial, and then tutorial admin. Now, tutorial is not going to be found here. You need to import it, so we're going to say from tutorial.models import tutorial. Now that is for the tutorial admin. Since I also want to be able to access the video, I need to add a video admin as well. So we're going to create another class in here and just change the name for video admin. And then here, since there is no many-to-many field for the video, we can get rid of that filter horizontal, but we also need to register it down at the bottom. So we're going to say video and then video admin. And then we also need to import video as well. All right, cool. So now that we've added a new app to our project, we need to go to our installed apps, and we're going to need to add tutorial, which is the name of the app that we created. The reason why is because anytime you add a new app, you need the database to know that it exists. Because if we went into our database and we looked at what noob post looks like right now, we're going to see database tables since we created a super user in the earlier videos. You're going to see, if I go into schema, public, tables, you're going to see all the different tables, and all these are related to all this authentication stuff that Django comes with out of the box, which saves you a ton of time. But what you don't see is you don't see the tutorial that we added or any videos. So how do you add videos or tutorials? Well, the database needs to know about that. So anytime you add or even make changes to your models file in Django explains to Django how to create your database table. So this is all Django speak, but it turns into raw SQL for whatever SQL database you're using, whether it's Postgres, MySQL, SQL Server, any of these other SQL databases. Django does all the hard work for you to create the tables and everything that you need. So all you have to do in order for that to happen, similar to how we created our migrations up at the top, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say python manage.py, and we're going to say create migrations. It might be migration, sorry. It's make migrations, I think, not create. God damn it, make migrations. Alright, there you go. So it detected that tutorial needed to be added, and then it created its initial migration. So it did that based off of your models file. Now that it's created it, it's still not going to exist in the database because we have to actually migrate it. So if we look down here, the table doesn't exist and it won't exist. So the first thing you do is you make the migration and then you migrate. And now that that's done, if we go into our database and we refresh this joint, you can now see that we have 4 new database tables that were created. You have video, tutorial, and then there's 2 separate tables for each many-to-many relationship. We're not going to get into the specifics of that. That could be an entire video, and it really has nothing to do with Django. That has to do with it being database specific. But the point is, though, is that Django makes this stuff a lot easier than what you would have to do, to create this stuff in a database, for you. Or if you were going to do it by yourself, I mean, you'd end up having to do a lot more work than what we just did in this video. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and start the website up, because I want to go into the admin to show you that the work that we did with our admin panel is actually working. So if we go /admin, you can see that we now have tutorials and videos. So if we did not add that code to the admin.py file, then it would not exist inside here. But it does because we added that. If I go into tutorials, I have the ability to search. Right now there are no tutorials in here, but I have the ability to search if there were, and they would search by title based on, you know, how we set that up. And here's a video. Let's go ahead and add a video. So if I go to like the newest video for this series, and you can see somebody downvoted me already. What a dick. So like somebody always downvotes my video. Like I think there's a bot that actually does it, and it's so easy to create a bot that just automatically parses a channel to, you know, wait for a new video. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on, because otherwise there's always this one troll that will like downvote my video almost immediately after it gets uploaded. So it seems like it's definitely a bot. So some butthurt person out there is upset over my channel. Anyway, so if I go to add video down here, and I'm going to put the YouTube ID for the video, and we'll say how to use PostgreSQL or something like that. This is just going to be temporary. This is temporary, blah, blah, blah. So I can save it. And now that video exists. And if I go to tutorials, and I go to add a tutorial, because I said to filter horizontal, you have these horizontal things, which makes it so much easier to create many-to-many relationships. So you can see similar here is a many-to-many to itself, but there are no tutorials, otherwise they would show up in here. We're actually creating our first tutorial now. Now here's one problem you're going to notice, the video object, and this is actually something I thought was resolved in the later versions of Django, but apparently it's not. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. So in order for this to actually show up as its title and not just say video object, all we need to do is go to video, and then down here we're going to say define Unicode self return self.title. And then we're going to actually do the same thing for our tutorial down here. And all we're doing is we're attaching a method to a class. So this is basic class and object-oriented programming in Python. But if I refresh this, I may have to restart my server. In fact, I think I do. Darn it. All right, let me kill this real quick. Alright, so if I go to back into the admin, click on tutorials, add tutorial. Alright, so what it was is actually in the old Python 2 you'd have to do Unicode, but now you do Python string. So just str. So make sure that's 2 underscores, str followed by 2 more underscores. You need to do that for both of them, which I think is a little bit unusual, but anyway, that will resolve the problem. So instead of saying like video object, which isn't very helpful because we obviously want to know the title of the video so we know, how to create these tutorial videos and stuff like that, then this is definitely a necessity here. So if I go to admin now, if I went to tutorial, and we'll add a tutorial. We'll just call this tutorial 1. And then now you see instead of video object or video ID or whatever it was, it now says the actual title of the video. So I can just move that over and say this is a test. And you see the date time is automatically pre-populated like I had showed you before. And by clicking save, we now have one tutorial in here. And now you can see tutorial 1, so I could even reference itself in a many-to-many relationship, but I'm not going to do that. But because I'm doing a many-to-many, if I did a tutorial 2, And we'll just use the same video since it's a many-to-many. This is another. And then now I can reference tutorial 1 as being a similar tutorial and click save. So now you have all this stuff all linking together in a nice fashion. The database is doing a lot of that work for you, which is why relational databases exist. So I know this was a lot to swallow. A lot of tutorials in Django aren't going to touch on the many-to-many and all that stuff. I feel like I did, so you guys should subscribe at least, or vote up my video, or share it, or do whatever. And I'm going to continue to keep building this tutorial series. Just let me know. I kind of went, I didn't even know I was really going to do this, but as I started rewriting a site that I had in ASP.NET, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it in Django, and I love Django. I always come back to it. But so anyway, guys, I'm going to continue building this series. Let me know what you think, and have a good day. Bye.